Alrighty, this is Jake here on Epic Skies with Jake. This is my very first weather forecasting video here to talk about the severe weather potential on Wednesday, March 17th. We're not going to get too in-depth today or look at any specifics, but we are going to get a good generalized idea of just how severe weather could play out this coming Wednesday. Today is Sunday, March the 14th at midnight. Alrighty, to perform this analysis, we are going to be looking at the GFS Global Forecasting Model. Now, it is important to remember this is just one model solution amongst many others. However, I've chosen the GFS considering it does a pretty good job most of the time in regards to severe weather potential, especially at an extended range such as the one here. So this is the 2-meter surface temperature, and as you can see, temperatures at 18Z on Wednesday, March 17th, will likely be into the mid to even the upper 70s across parts of Dixie Alley. Look over there down into Florida, temperatures easily into the 80s, even into the mid 80s, and maybe an isolated upper 80s temperature across Florida. Again, this map could change, but this gives you a good generalized idea that temperatures are going to be warm and favorable for severe weather. In collaboration with the warm temperatures and the low to mid to even the upper 70s across parts of Dixie Alley will be the moisture supply and dew points well into the favorable zone. Generally, we want dew points in the mid-50s or higher, and as you can see, we are well above the mid-50s desired range for severe thunderstorms. Dew points into the upper 60s, and I wouldn't even be surprised if we have a dew point into the low 70s across portions of Dixie Alley. As you look on to the west across parts of Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, pointing further west, you can see there's a little bit of lower dew points. But as we look east of a line, as you can see there, a visible line, dew points are favorable for severe thunderstorms. And they are in the 60s and perhaps the 70s. Now, this is what we call a dry line, or perhaps even a cold front, but in this case, this is a dry line, and this is going to be providing a source of lift. That's going to be that lifting mechanism to get warm, moist air parcels up into the atmosphere to form thunderstorm updrafts, which can really get thunderstorms strong and healthy in this case. Now, we've got lift, we've got moisture, and we've got heat. What else is needed in order for this to come together on Wednesday? Well, of course, we've got to look at surface-based instability, or SBCAPE. That's a parameter which stands for surface-based convective available potential energy. Let's have a look at that. Now, as you can see, the surface-based instability here is pretty good. Now, you might be looking at this model here, and it might look a little confusing, but generally we want numbers above 750 joules per kilogram. Joules per kilogram is the unit in which we measure surface-based convective available potential energy, or all types of convective available potential energy for that matter. Now, in this instance, the surface-based instability not only exceeds the needed 750 joules per kilogram for organized severe thunderstorms, but it even appears to be uncapped. With weak convective inhibition, we likely won't see a strong or even a moderately strong capping inversion, which is bad news for people who do not like storms and severe weather, and good news for those who do. Alrighty, now let's look at our last ingredient, wind shear. And here is a look at the 850 millibar low-level jet stream up into the 40 and even potentially the 50 knot range across portions of this warm, moist air mass that will be shifting to the north. We will likely have a warm sector across much of Dixie Alley with a dry line shifting eastward, punching into this warm sector, which will promote thunderstorm development along it and ahead of it, acting again as that lifting mechanism. And as you can see, the wind shear in this environment, when usually a low-level jet stream is in that 40 to 50 knot range, we are likely to see an environment favorable for tornadic activity. So there is a chance we could see tornadoes. Now, the likelihood of those strong, even long-track tornadoes, well, we're going to have to get a little bit closer to the event to actually see if those will become a possibility, and really to, as a whole, see if this entire system materializes. Nonetheless, we could be seeing a substantial severe weather potential on Wednesday, March 17th. But again, that last look at the 850 millibar low-level jet stream in the 40 to 50 knot range, which is indicative of a strong low-level jet, which is supportive of tornadic development and even organized thunderstorm development. And as you'd expect, there will be thunderstorms and showers across parts of the warm sector, actually across much of the warm sector, on 21Z Wednesday. Now, they will likely be eating up all that surface-based instability that will be available in the warm sector and will likely be able to become, well, healthy and strong and, again, organized. And lastly, before we wrap things up in this short analysis for Wednesday's severe potential, we look at this sounding that comes from southern Mississippi. This sounding, well, might look like a little bit of complex, it might look a little too confusing. However, really, if you scratch underneath the surface, this is really not that hard to understand. Well, let me introduce you to two things we call skew T-charts and hodographs. Now, that hodograph is going to kind of show us the veering with height in different layers of the atmosphere, the middle, upper, and lower portions of the atmosphere. Now, the more curved those appear, likely means the more veered winds are as you go up in height, which ultimately means more horizontal vorticity and, in return, a better chance of tornadic activity. Now, we do see pretty favorable hodographs, but wind shear could be a little tad stronger, and our critical angle down there that shows 44 degrees could be a little bit higher, a little bit closer to 90 degrees actually would be more desirable, but 44 degrees will do for at least a somewhat tornado potential on Wednesday. And that yellow line over there on the skew T chart, which is that chart on the left side of the screen here, that yellow line, that yellow dotted line, signifies convective available potential energy. And as you can see, there will likely be a lot of CAPE in place. Usually, the further away that yellow dotted line is away from that red line, usually the more convective available potential energy there is in the environment. Due to the temperature difference. Instability in CAPE is based on temperature difference. Alrighty, as you can see, that red line signifying air temperature at 77 degrees Fahrenheit, and the green line signifying surface dew point at 70 degrees Fahrenheit, which is more than adequate and more than favorable for organized severe thunderstorms. Alrighty, and last but not least, let's have a look at that LFC-LCL area right there, and it appears to be lower in the skew T chart area, meaning that storms will be surface-based rather than elevated, kind of enhancing the potential for tornadoes. And a 15% chance has been outlined by the Storm Prediction Center for Day 5, Wednesday, March 17th. That is, again, likely for all modes of severe weather this coming week.